Well, hello. I'm waiting a minute for people to come online if they're going to. Got 6 viewers at the moment. Just chilling out here in my, sunroom. Although it's not sunny today. It's kind of chilly. I had the heater out here earlier, but it's too loud to run while I'm streaming, so turn that off. Kind of, hello. Nice to see you all saying hello there. So maybe you've seen that I made a new channel in Discord for chatting during the stream. It might be a bit easier to work there. I mean, you can use whichever, but the nice thing about the Discord one is that it's easier to have a record of our conversations and your questions. So I've set up my OBS layout so that you can see the Discord channel in the stream. So even if you're watching this later, you can see how I'm interacting with people. But if you are, of course, in the class, that might be a good place to chat in Discord. Or I mean, you can use Twitch too. It's just like I have multiple screens here, and I might not see something in Twitch quite as easily. So today the goal is I want to work through some of the tutorials. That's what Alexandra and Allison both requested, working through the Engram tutorial. So I thought that would be a good way to spend some time today. I think that I don't know if I can get through that all during like a 45-minute stream today, if that's what we end up doing. So my plan is maybe I'll continue working on that and stream that on Wednesday, and then or if I do get done today, then Wednesday can be a different tutorial. So if there's some other tutorial that you know of, or on Programming Historian or something similar that you'd like me to work through, please request that, and I can see if we can get to it on Wednesday. And then we'll spend Friday. Friday will just be open office hours, so I'll just be online, and you can drop in with your questions. And I may or may not Twitch stream that. I might just be online in either Zoom or Whereby. And if you have a question, you can just drop in and ask, and then we can work through it together for a little while. So that's my basic plan for the week, to kind of spend the time I have on screen more in like tutorial programming kind of advice and troubleshooting and help, as opposed to trying to discuss the readings, because that's really hard to do. Honestly, I don't think it went that well last week on the Twitch stream. I mean, I explained some things. Maybe it helped if I hear my explanations, but really hearing your understanding of it is what helps me know what you're getting and what you're not getting. So, okay, I need to go close the door so I have a little privacy. I'll be right back. My kids are all having their screen time right now with Kindles and TV, so they probably aren't going to bother me for the next hour or so. They also probably won't be outside because it's not very nice outside. Actually, my daughter, my 9-year-old, I didn't realize this, but the other day when she was outside, like messing with me, she cut her foot on a rusty metal down there. Not too bad, but it bled a lot. Hopefully it doesn't get infected. But anyway, the setup here on OBS is such that I'm going to be sharing, like I have a screen for my Chrome browser here, and then I have Discord, and then of course you can see me talking. Um, I might still play with that a little bit. Yeah, she's fine. She just cut her toe. She's just, she's a tough kid, so she'll be all right. So Mothman, I will share that in here. So this is the main tutorial I'm going to be using today. And I don't actually have, hold on, I don't have the Twitch stream on the same computer, so I can't actually copy and paste that. So, but if somebody, you can paste that in the Twitch channel, that would be great, just in case Mothman is not in Discord, so that they can see that too. That's the main one that I'm going to link, that I'm going to work through. But to get to it, it's going to take a little bit of setup. So you have a little bit of time to get to it. So I'm going to start off. Some of this stuff might be kind of review. You might remember this, but in order for me to actually work through this, I'm going to need a workspace, and I'm going to need some files to work on. And you all hopefully have. Okay, thanks, Michaela. You all may already have your corpus figured out, and you all may already have an environment set up for that. So this might be a review, but if not, then this would be good to follow too. So in terms of the big project that you're working toward, you might be using something other than Google Collab Notebooks, but I'm going to keep assuming that you're working with Collab, and a lot of you I know are, because as the name suggests, they're good for collaboration. So specifically, whenever you need to collaborate with me, you can share it with me, and then I can look at what you're seeing and help you troubleshoot it. So I think it's a good way to work. And if nothing else, I'm going to show you how to do that. There will be some adaptation that I will have to do between because the Python environment that they're working in for the tutorial is different than the Collab Python environment. So I'll have to do some interpolation as I explain that. But that's something that we've already done once or looked at once, so that might be a review as well. But it never hurts to do it again. Okay, so I'm just going to set up a couple things here. I'm just going to call this a Google. This will be my Google thing. Keywords in context, Engram tutorial. And I'll go ahead and share this notebook with you all in Discord as well. But let me make a note here. It's really odd how slow my computer gets as I'm streaming. So it is using Engrams, like many of you are interested in, but the keywords in context is also an important term of art that they're using. That's so when they're saying quick, like it's actually something you can pronounce. This is my version of the tutorial of this tutorial. So while I'm doing this, I would recommend you follow along. So make your own Google Collab Notebook. Don't try to copy this one right now. I mean, you can look at it for reference, but I would recommend make your own copy so you can try to do what I'm doing. And then when you get stuck or have questions, then pose those questions, especially ideally in Discord. And then I can try to clear those up. But again, I will share this shortly. Just let me get it set up to begin with here. Okay, so this is just the basics. Let me get a shared link for you. And I'm going to give you a comment link so you can't actually change my code. That's just to keep it, keep you from doing something that I don't expect or, breaking it. So here's the notebook I'm going to be working through. And adding to today. Okay. Okay. So and yes, I am going to post it on YouTube as well later, so you can watch it there as well. Okay, so let's get started. So this is the Collab Notebook, and you remember from the working with files notebook that we did a while ago, you can work with a corpus pretty much directly in Google Drive. And so there were 3 methods that I showed you. I'm going to set this up using method 3 because I think that's going to be easier. To do that, I'm going to get a corpus, and this is something that you may still need to do if you haven't already figured out your corpus. So I'm going to go through the process of creating a corpus here. I'm going to actually need to change my OBS sharing a little bit here. Let me just switch this up here. Okay, this is going to look weird for a second, but it's not too bad, hopefully. Okay, so because I want to share my whole desktop so you can actually see what I'm doing. This is not terrible, but it's not great either. So I'm not going to leave it like this, but let me show you. I'm going to go through the process of making a corpus like we did the other day. Let me see. I feel like Jane Austen is a bit played out, so let me think of another author. How about H.G. Wells? So let's see what we can find by H.G. Wells here. Oh, or G.K. Chesterton. He's a good one. I like him. Let's get Chesterton. Let's see if we can find an author page for that, for his work. He's very prolific, so I'm not going to try to get all of his work, but let's get a few of them. Nice. Okay, so I'm going to do the same process I did in the first live stream I did. Seems like forever ago, but the one that I did, was that a week ago? From the HCC. So, gosh, Chesterton is interesting because he writes work in several different genres. So he writes essays and short fiction and novels and poetry. Very prolific writer. So if you were looking at different types of like how genre plays out, he might be an interesting person to look at. So Hannah, your work on satire, this is the kind of thing you might be looking at for Alexander Pope. Okay, so let's get a few of these. This is probably his most famous novel. Very strange, a very weird novel. Like it reads like someone is telling you about a weird dream they had. Like it just is this bizarre work. Okay, so I'll make a new folder on my desktop. I'll call it my Chesterton corpus. And I'll save this one here. This is Chesterton. I'll just get 5 or 6 of these. Thursday. And this kind of makes me go in slow motion, and maybe that's okay. The streaming kind of slows me down. So maybe that makes it easier to follow maybe. Okay, so this is Chesterton Innocence. This character, Father Brown, is kind of like his Sherlock Holmes character. Like he shows up in a bunch of different books, and he has a whole series, and he solves crimes or mysteries. He's a Catholic priest, and there's a pretty good TV series based on it that's on Netflix. I do like to watch it. I think they're on season 7, should be coming out eventually. What do I have here? Oh, Orthodoxy. Hope I'm spelling his name right. And you see there's lots of front matter and things on these that I'm going to be cleaning out too, but I'm going to do that after I've gone through and saved all these. I'm not going to bother with metadata for now, just because just in the interest of time. Aesop's Fables, interesting. I didn't know he did that. But this will be good enough, I hope. Chesterton Aesop. By the way, let me know if you see a squirrel jump on that feeder out there. We put up a new one, and I think it might be too low to the ground because there's been a squirrel on it all morning. I've yelled at it several times to get it off, but I haven't seen how it's getting on. So if you happen to see it jump on there, let me know. I know you can't actually see me right now, but it's behind me, the window. And this is Chesterton. What do I have here? I forgot which one I clicked on just now. What's wrong with the world? Okay, I don't know this one. And I'm just writing down short versions of each of these for their file name. Chesterton, wrong. Just to make it easy to reference later if I need to. Okay, so that's enough of those. Those are all now on my desktop in this folder called Chesterton Corpus, and I noticed that I misspelled his name in the name of the folder. That's annoying, so let me fix that. It's not a name that I type that often. There we go. So these, I'm going to go through and quickly, hopefully quickly, clean them out. So I'm going to get out their front matter and the back matter. And this is pretty crude, but it's just a way to basically make sure that I'm only getting the things that I want. And I'm looking here for everything that is Chesterton's and removing any other data, like introductions or forwards by translators or anything like that, editors. What the heck? Female suffrage. The license stuff, that's not necessary, so I'm going to be just taking all that out. And I know this is kind of boring and kind of review, but this is sort of giving you time maybe to set up your own example or get your your Collab Notebook set up, or maybe get some tea. I have some nice Lapsang Souchong tea, which I find is nice on a rainy day, especially a cold and rainy day. I'm going to probably do a fire in the fireplace later, so Lapsang goes well with that because it's a smoked tea. Okay, one more. Hear my children moving around. The Man Who Is Thursday. It's all about a guy who accidentally gets inducted into a secret society and he doesn't want to be. I don't know. That's not a very good summary, but like that's sort of it. I mean, it's a weird, all kinds of strange things happen as he basically ends up overthrowing the boss of the secret society in a hot air balloon race of some sort. I don't know. It's very weird. Okay, so that's a good enough corpus for now. I've got 5 text documents, so I'm going to switch this. No, I'm not switching yet. I'm going to make a new folder. This is going to be something that I'm going to do in Google Drive, so I'm not going to do the... Actually, yeah, no, I will. Sorry, I'm jumping around here. So this Chesterton corpus, I don't have my metadata spreadsheet with this, but you probably would if you are getting ready to turn yours in, just in case you're not sure how to do these, how to turn things into a zip file. Right click on it and then compress. So compressing is the term. So this is now compressed as Chesterton corpus.zip. This will make it easier for me to upload it. So let me go ahead and make a new folder for this on my Google Drive. Chesterton. I'll just call it Chesterton. And then go to this folder, upload that zip file that I just created. I'm pretty sure I can extract zip files on Google Drive. If not, then I might need to upload them all separately. Let me see. It says I need to connect an app to do that. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to upload them all individually. There's only 5, so it's not a big deal. You can actually unzip in Python, which could also be another way to do this. But there we go. Okay, so now I have a file. I have a folder called Chesterton, and in that folder there are all these text files, and these are going to be the works that I use as my data when I work through the tutorial over here. So first of all, I want to get my stuff into this notebook so I can actually work with it. So you remember there are 3 different ways to do that. I'm going to try to write notes pretty verbosely within this as I go. First, get the text files for this corpus. Okay, so down here I'm going to do some code files, some code cells to do what I need to import it. But first of all, I just am going to connect to a runtime and mount the drive. I'm not sure if it's going to ask me for permission or not. I do have a very large number of files. I recently backed up a bunch of stuff into my Google Drive account, so I have even more than usual. But okay, so here we are. It's in this system here. And it's taking a while to expand that folder to show me the contents list for that folder. That is the big one. So, just waiting. Oh yeah, let me switch OBS back. Okay, this is a little bit more familiar. Great. So, oh, Shannon was having an issue with audio. Hopefully you're okay now. That's the problem. I had to kind of hide various windows as I was working through that, but I'm back here, back to normal now. Great. Okay, so let me. But if you're okay with audio, that's good. If you do have more issues, let me know. I'll try to keep my Discord view in my window in view as I work. So here we are. So there's obviously a lot of files here and folders. The one I just created was Chesterton with the lowercase c right here. Okay, so I'm going to copy the path to this folder, and I'm going to write myself a little comment note here. This is the path to my corpus folder. Okay, so I'm now going to actually I'm going to do something else up here. I'm actually going to do a cell up near the top here where I'm going to put all of the imports that I need to, just because I'm not sure what I'm going to need, and if I have my imports all in one place, I can refer to it later a lot easier, because if they're all spread out throughout my notebook, it's going to be harder to keep track of them. I don't need that sidebar anymore, so let me close that. Man, this is slow. So I know I want glob because that's useful for grabbing a bunch of files, which is what I'm about to do. Okay, so I'm going to make a variable called files, which is going to be a list, and it's going to be a list of all the files. And I'm going to use glob to get that. This is something that is in that working with text files example. So if you want to just copy that snippet, that would do the same thing as what I'm doing right here. So that code right there should create this variable named files, and files should have on it a list of all of the paths to each individual file. So let me double check that with a code cell here. And it does indeed have what I expected, so I don't need that anymore. I just needed to confirm that it works, so I'm going to go ahead and close that out. And now for each of these files, I could work through them like that in a for loop, but I'm going to hold off on that until I see what I need for the tutorial. Okay, so I think we're finally ready to take a look at the tutorial, and this is going to be a bit of difference there. This is like the 5th or 6th lesson in a series, and so they're assuming that you've already got some things figured out and already done. So this is going to take us a little while to get adjusted to that. This is the obo.py version, and what they're doing is building a bunch of functions into this obo.py file and then using those functions later. We're not going to be able to do that, so I'm going to try to get the ones we need, and I might need to jump around a bit to find them all, but that will work. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and make a section here, so another kind of general purpose section here. Functions and code from, no, just say general purpose. So as I figure out a function, I'm going to add it here, and this next part replicates what the tutorial accomplishes by importing obo.py. Question? Okay. So as I discover those, I'm going to add them here in the code cell. Okay, so let's see what they tell us to do. Let's go back over here, and hopefully everybody's doing all right. We got 9 viewers. If you have questions or need me to review something, please ask. The sooner I catch your question, then the better it is for me to respond to it. So let's go. All right, so just a quick review on what engrams are. So they're telling us here that these are units, and so a bigram is 2 units, trigrams is 3 units. And when we're talking about engrams, n just means we don't know ahead of time. We're not creating a specific method for a specific length of gram, bi, tri, quad, or whatever. We're just setting up a general purpose method for thinking about engrams, which is any length of sequences that we're trying to extract from a linguistic unit of some sort. And so this is actually pretty useful. So this is going back to what their example of their lesson on manipulating strings in Python. This bit of code here, by the way, whenever they do something like this, you don't want to copy that last line where it has that arrow pointing to the right, because that's their version of what we would see in the output of a cell. So let me show you, for example, what would happen if you did that. So if we did that in a code cell, we're going to get an error. I'm going to get an error, right? So this is not what you should do. So don't copy theirs there. That little arrow over, that's their way of saying what we would normally get in the output. So we should see that output here. Hello, whoa. That's the output. It's just we have a different way of presenting that in the Python notebook here. So that little like arrow that's on the left, I guess that's sort of the stand-in for this little arrow here for them. So that's really what you should keep in mind. And here we've got something interesting going on as well. So now we're going to be taking a long string, splitting it up, and then slicing it to see different parts of it. The slice method is what we're mainly using here. So let's see. Let's just try this out. And this is all just kind of playground area. This is not going to be something that I'm going to be working with. I'm just kind of or like taking as my actual work. I'm just practicing with these things. So this is kind of demonstrating the concept and working through it. I'll probably end up deleting a lot of these cells later because they're really just here for demonstration purposes. So with this next section, it's showing you that you can try to print word list, and then in that part with brackets and colons, you can slice out different parts of that word list based on their index number. So this one, 0 to 4, should give me the first 4 of the list, and that's fine. So what it's saying is the 0 there is whatever the first element of the list is, and then the 4 is the 5th element of the list. So it's saying it was the best of times. That's going to pick 0 for 4. And what they show you in the next several lines here are you can pick any group by like of any length by just picking the right entry point and end point. So 6 to 8, that's going to be a 3 or a 2 length thing, or we can go back 1 to get 3. So I'd say try this out and just try putting different values into this. You don't have to copy it multiple times unless you want to, but I think what's important is understanding how these different index points change which part of the string, which part of the text that you're extracting from it. So I don't know. There's also some special versions of this. So if you do leave the first half, so the character to the left of the colon blank, then it's going to get everything up until the 8th, or in the case of the 9th element of the list, or like that's going to get you the first 2. Similarly, if you do the opposite, it's going to get everything after 3 in this case. So these are kind of nice shortcuts built into the way that Python references lists that you can use to quickly access a particular part of it. And so that's a really powerful tool built into Python, and it's going to be really useful in this example that we're going to be building. So I think they were just kind of hoping you could review this. And so yeah, here's a bit of code that might be useful in a loop. So interesting. So let's see what they're asking us to do here. So this all here shows you how to do slices, and now it's saying you can use variables to represent those index positions. So those index positions here, I was just typing them as literal numbers, but we could also use a variable to change that in different iterations. So let's try an example of that. This looks like a pretty good chunk of code. Let's see what happens. This is incomplete, but it gives us the bones of a for loop that we can use. So if I equals 0 for items in word list, we're going to print. So, okay, so I is going to be 0 to begin with, and then for each items in word list, every time it iterates, so every time it goes through that list, it's going to print this particular slice on it based on whatever the value of I is. So I is going to be 0 the first time it runs. It's going to run this first time with word list 0 to 0 plus 5, and then it's going to add 1 to I, and so the next time this runs, it's going to run it as word list 1 to 1 plus 5, and then the next time it's going to do 2 and 2 plus 5 and so on. So this YouTube, I mean, sorry, I don't know why I said YouTube. This for loop is going to take us through this each time, and it's going to give us all of the 5 grams of this particular phrase. So it was the best of, it is the first one, was the best of times it, best of times it was the, times it was the worst. It was the worst of, was the worst of times it, and so on. It kind of becomes sound poetry after a while. It's kind of nice. I also like the way that foolishness kind of trails off into foolishness. This becomes a nice little concrete poem, actually. So this is the basic method of using slices to identify engrams, in this case 5 grams. Okay, so this is all still kind of demonstrating the basic principle. So this is now, as I say, keeping with their modular approach. That's what they mean when they're talking about defining things in obo.py and then adding to it. And so they're giving us a couple of versions of a general function that will get engrams. It'll do the same thing we just did, but in a reusable way. So let's try it. I've got 2 different versions. This one's compressed and is a little harder to read, obviously, because everything's on one line. This one is easier to read, and I don't think this one is more efficient computationally. I think they will probably run at about the same speed. It's just this one's easier to read because it's longer. And so as they always say, use whichever one makes sense to you. So this is a function, so I'm going to add it to my area where I'm defining functions up here. Def get engrams word list in, and I don't think we need anything else other than this. This should do the same thing as we did in our function, as in our little for loop down below, but now this is a function. And to work with a function, we need to understand what it's set up to do. This, as a cell by itself, it's not going to return any output. It just defines this function for us to use later. So this function is named get engrams, and it expects 2 arguments. These arguments are what come after the name of the function. So it wants to know what word list should it work on, and then what size of engram should it return. So this is like, you don't even have to really dig into this code just to trust that it works. Let's try it. So we have word list already as this from the Tale of Two Cities, so we can continue working with that. And then I'm going to try this out, and then I'm going to clean this up a bit. So what was our name of our function? Get engrams. It is case sensitive, I think, so we're going to call it like that. Get engrams. Yeah, and our word list is still called word list, and then we'll say let's just try to replicate the same thing. So let's try to get 5 grams first, and then see how that goes. So this is going to run that function. It's going to save the results of that function into this variable called mygrams, which I just did because I wanted to. And then let's do that, but print mygrams and see what that looks like. Okay, so it arranges it a little differently, but it's the same idea. This does seem to be correct. So the first one is it was the best of, and then was the best of times it, and so on until the last thing should be. Actually, no, this one actually is set up so it stops on the last valid Engram, so it's not going to give us foolishness in this case. So that's good. Yeah, that's kind of all we need to know. So this is how you get Engrams from a text. So let's try this now on my Chesterton corpus, one of the files in there. And if you have questions, by the way, this again, throw them out there. I see 10 viewers, so hopefully you're following along or doing some version of this on your own and having success with it. I'm going to clean out these cells that I was just using to demonstrate some things. So if you need something from these, let me know. Okay, so I'm back to a pretty clean looking notebook, but I still have my function that we created, and then I have my files here. Okay, so I'm actually going to go back into something. I think if you remember from those examples just now, the word list ones, all of those words were lowercase and all the punctuation was removed. And I believe they had a lesson about that a bit earlier. So I'm going to go back and see if there is something like that we can just take from that earlier lesson. Is there a list somewhere? Let's see the series. I was hoping that they would just be able to see a series of these displayed as a series and not just kind of going through it thing by thing. I don't need that. I don't need that. This is the one we worked through the other day. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Normalizing textual data. Let's see what this involves. Yeah, so if we were to read in the files from Gutenberg, they would probably look kind of like this. And so they're talking about cleaning that up. Okay, so let me see. They've got this code called strip tags. I don't think we need that, so I'm going to skip that. Oh, okay, great. So here's a couple of things that we can definitely do without needing to get too fancy. So this is a function that is going to strip non-alphanumeric characters from the text, and that's what we want. We're not interested in this as text at this point. We're interested in it as a bag of words, and so we're going to just take this, and this is using a regular expression. Regular expressions are this really bizarre, esoteric kind of way of writing code. They're really fascinating and really powerful once you start using them and working with them. But often it's like if you can find someone else who's written a regular expression for you, then by all means use that. This one's actually a very simple expression. It's removing this is the regular expression part. The match is just saying everything that's not white space or actually I don't know why this is going to work. Let's see if I don't know. Let's find out. I'm not actually sure why that's not more complicated than that. But according to this, it says that they're going to be removing all non-alphanumeric characters. So, okay, great. They also have this, they've introduced this function here, lower. That's just built into Python. You don't have to import anything to do that. So that should be okay. So, all right, great. So let's work with this a little bit and come up with an example that's going to work. So let's try to open these files. So for f in I'm just going to work on one of these files at a time. I'm not going to try to work on all of them for now because I think I'm going to end up writing a function, and that function will be something I can generalize. So let's just say let's just get one of these paths. Let's do Thursday, and this is the string that is marking the path to it. So So we've done things like this before, and this is, you saw how I set this all up. If you have some other way of getting your text file into your notebook, then you can certainly do that, but you should do that at this point. You should have a text file. So this is going to be saving the contents of this file, the man who was Thursday, into this variable called text. And I'm going to do a couple things to it following their example. So they're going to create something called word list by running it through these different functions here. So I'm going to do that here. I don't know if I can do lower here or not because I don't know if it's a string yet. Let's find out. Yeah, I can. Okay, great. So I'm going to make this thing called word list, and I will, let's see, follow their example but adapt it. Yep. Oh, there we go. So I don't need the OBO part because I'm just working inside of this same notebook. They've imported their other code from this thing called OBO. Okay, so let's see. This should create something called word list for me. Yeah, whoa, there you go. That's a long list. So that's the word list, and so this is very similar to what they had in the Best of Worlds thing, the Tale of Two Cities. Except it's the same name of list, but it's a different list. It's a different contents. So okay. Now that I have this, I can try to get some Engrams from it. So let's try Thursday grams. Let's do Thursgrams equals get Engrams, and then word list. Let's do 5 grams again. So this isn't going to print anything out. It's just saving the result of that function into this variable, this thing called Thursgrams. I think that's going to be a pretty long list. So let's see. I'm going to do the length function, see how long it is. Yeah, 58,005 grams came out of this text. That's pretty long. I don't want to look at all of those. But let's just say, just out of curiosity, to make sure that this actually is what I think it is, let's just pick a random one. I just typed a random number here. Outburst of a speculative builder. Okay, that's a 5 gram from this book. Great. I don't know. I don't remember that context at all, but that's fine. Let's do maybe 40,000. The man whom he had. So another 5 gram from this book. So yeah, great. I don't know what to do with this yet, but that seems to be working. This 5 gram seems to be working. And so again, I've adapted a bit from the lesson, from the programming historian lesson, but it is working. I can extract Engrams here. Now, what I do with that is going to be take a bit more, right? I mean, we have keywords, but we don't have context yet, and that's the next thing to do here. I see that I've been going about 45 minutes or a little bit there, so let me see how much is left in this lesson, and I might add a little bit more here, or I might just continue this on Wednesday. If I do continue on Wednesday, I would recommend you get up to however far I get here on your own before Wednesday so that we can build on that on Wednesday. So let's see. I think this lesson really does end here. It looks like. I mean, they're just talking about sort of saving your work and then like testing it, which is what I just did, and then saving it. I think. Let me just make sure. Yeah, that's all they're doing. Yeah, that's all they're doing. Okay, great. So let's see what the next lesson involves. Because now we got the Engrams, but now we need to actually put them out there. And let's see, the lesson goals, we can extract Engrams. Now we're going to output all the Engrams of a given keyword in a document downloaded from the internet and display them clearly in your, display them clearly in your browser window. So that display them clearly in your browser window, that's what we're going to focus on. Not the downloading from the internet part, because we have our own way of getting text and thinking about which texts are important. So yeah, this does look like it's going to take a bit more to explain, but we've got something to work on now, and so it'll be easier for me to get started on Wednesday with this here. So I'll leave this more or less as it is. I'll probably clean it up a little bit, but you should have access to this this particular notebook, so you can take a look at it and try to work on your own version of it. I recommend doing that even if you have different plans for your project, just so you can kind of get used to working with text files and some practice working with Python. So yeah, I think I'll probably wrap it up here, and I didn't get any questions while I was talking, so hopefully this all kind of made sense. I was going kind of slowly. So let me know. I'll be wrapping this up in a few minutes. So if you do have questions, please get them in now if you want me to answer them on the stream. Otherwise, I will be, of course, online, and you can check out things or chat in. You can use the contact methods on my website to set up a time to text or chat through video if you'd like to do it that way. I'd be happy to do that. And that's really ideally what we will probably start doing. For all of your projects, because you have different things that you're working toward and working on. So I will be also posting this all on YouTube, so you can watch it later if you'd like. But I'll just give you a few minutes before I wrap things up. If you have any questions and you want to get them on the stream, then this is your last chance. So, oh, there's birds. Great. What is that? I'm trying to get better at identifying birds, but I'm not as good as my wife yet. Let's see. I mean, it looks like oh, there's somebody. I think that's a chickadee. No. I have Merlin, the app, that it's like a bird in it. It's like Pokemon Go for birds. Like you can look up, like a Pokédex of birds. Basically, you can see them and like hear what their calls sound like. Or if you see a bird in the wild, you can like report that you found it. So I'm trying to figure out what those guys are. Start bird ID. Small bird. Red and brown. Eating at a feeder. Oh, it's a house finch. Yeah. This guy, I just saw, you probably can't see, but I just saw this guy, house finch. Neat. Then there's a blue one there too. I don't know if it was a blue jay or what. Okay, Alexandra, you're getting... Yes, I can take a look. I mean, I'm here. Why don't I just do this now? I can try to see what's going on. Alexandra, if you shared it with me, I think I might get a note in Gmail. So let me see if I got it there. If not, I might need you to send me the link in Discord. And then I can see what the issue is. What is that guy? Okay, so that's a house fence. There's another one that's small, that's black and white. Eating at a feeder. I think it's a chickadee. Yeah, I think it was a chickadee. Neat. Anyway, let's see. Oh man, my computer's like heating up. I can hear the fan kicking on. And I saw Allison typing in Discord, so I'll see if I can take a look at Alexandra's question and then hopefully get to Allison's too. I think Gmail, just the app, like opening a tab for Gmail takes a ton of stuff, like memory. It usually comes to updates, doesn't it? I can't get it. Oh, okay. So Allison figured out her question. That's always, that's the best case scenario. Or maybe it's shared with me. Maybe we can get to it this way. Okay, Alexander, I see you say it's in the Google Colab folder. So yeah, I probably do have access to it, but finding it might be a bit tricky. I mean, unless it's named. Oh, this might be it. I think this is it. Great. Oh yeah, here you go. This looks like yours. Okay, so I'm gonna go and open it. Let's see what I can do. Let's see. And I see your question there too, Shannon. Yeah, you can definitely do line or word counts in a function, or even just a for loop. You don't have to type the name in each time. If you do the glob method, it will automatically get a list. Okay, so let's see. So we've got all of these being read into as single letter variables. That works, but it can be tricky if you forget which letter is which. I mean, just for future reference. Okay, so let's see. I don't think I'm going to be able to run. Actually, I don't know what's going to happen. I might be able to run this cell. I don't have access to your files though, so that could be an issue. So array request your data, blah blah blah. Okay, that's fine. This will be an interesting experiment. Yeah, see, it's like when I open it, I think it's letting me see it with respect to like my environment, which I don't have these files in my environment. So that's why I think why I'm getting this one. I'm going to reload this. You may have run that cell on your own. I haven't done a lot of this actually, this collaborative editing, so this is kind of a good test. But if it's a syntax error, then that's something that perhaps okay. Okay. Is this the place you ran into trouble? Because I think I see what you're doing. Um, so this is I would probably do this whole. I would take a slightly different approach to what you've done, but if I understand what you're doing, this is you are opening each of these files, and I assume you have these files, and so that part of it works. That this cell that I'm in right now that works if you run that, but I'm not going to because I don't want to get that same file not found error. But if you look at it down here, then it looks like you are making a this is actually going to be a string if you make it this way. So that might be a little confusing to call it Austin list, but that's the idea. And then you wouldn't want to. You don't need this F part because that's something that like each of these Fs that you've got up here, like with open emma.text as F, F is only emma for that line. So it's all because it's inside of this with loop. So that with defines a scope in which things that you define up here in the first line of it are true only within that. So the F has no value after that. So the F is only true for this particular run of it, and then it's true but it has a different meaning for this run of it, and then it's true for this one. It has a different meaning for that one, and so on. So you don't need to assign it to this right here. I think what would be easier, if I may, I'm just going to rewrite this line of it, and I think this will accomplish what you're trying to do. So I'll comment this first line out, and then if I don't know if you can see me making these changes, by the way, in your copy, but tell me if you can. I'm curious. And then if we say Austin list, even though it's not actually list yet, we can actually do both of these. Oh, you know what? Let's do this. I thought of an even faster way to do it. So strip non-alpha num, which you do have in here, it's not going to work on text because you don't have a variable named text in here, at least that I've seen. But you do have this thing called Austin list, which is text, and it's working like the same way as my variable text did. So I think we can apply lower within the call to this function. I don't know. So this will probably throw an error for me, but if you can try that, that would be great. I'm not gonna like see if first of all, see if you can see the changes I made in your copy, and then see if you can run that with that difference there, and then I can try to explain it. But basically what you've done in this cell is create a very long text string of all of the text of all of those novels, which is great. So once you've done that, then you should be able to do this word list part of it, and that should work. I hope. I don't know. But try that out and let me know how that goes. And Allison, I don't know if you're still watching, but I'm kind of curious what problem you ran into and how you solved it. Shannon, I mean, yeah, you can do. Okay, I'll leave. So Alexander, keep looking at yours and see if that solves a problem. And then Shannon, let me see if I can recreate what you're talking about in my example here. So let me just. So this will be. I'll add a little section down here. Demoing something else down here, just in case anyone's looking at this later. So I have, first of all, this is where the glob function is really useful. So in this line right here, I'm pulling in all of those into a list, and so I don't need to know what each one of them is called. I just have a list of them, and then I can iterate through that list without naming each of them. I just need to say this first one, then the second one, then the third one, then the fourth one, whichever one those are. List object. Okay, let me so Shannon, I'll get back to you. Let me take a look at what error. I thought maybe I would see you running it here, but I don't for some reason. Oh no, I do. Okay, I just had to click away from that cell. Okay, let me see why this is happening. Oh yeah, okay, I see why. I was mistaken. So you're not splitting. Whenever you split each of these, a split is going to return into a list, and then when you're concatenating lists with the plus sign, it's going to make it just a successively longer list. So okay, great. So let's think of a different way to do that. Okay, I have a theory. I'm going to try this out, and like a lot of code stuff, it's the trial and error. But I wonder. So like what I did over here when I did the read, I just ran the outcome of that read to the dot lower function by using the dot method there. So on the one hand, I'm sure you could just do that for these. So I'll go ahead and do it. So this would make them all lowercase. I hear my kid's TV timer going off. That means their TV time is up. Their screen time has expired. I need to go check on that. So that'll do that. Also, though, I wonder if we can send the entire F after the read into the strip non-alpha function. I'm not sure this will work, but we'll try it. Let's see. I was hoping I could do multiple cursors. Sometimes you can actually do multiple cursors in the same text cell if you hold down the command key while you're clicking. You can do that in Sublime Text, which is one of my favorite things to do. Like if you need to type the same thing like 9 times, you just hold command and then make multiple copies of your cursor, and then you can type everywhere at once. It's pretty fun. Makes you feel like you have a lot of power. So anyway, still kind of working through this here. Hopefully this works. Okay, so Alexander, try that. I mean, I assume that you can see that. And then you won't even need this part down here because word Austin list will be a word list, and so you could send Austin list into your Engrams function, and that should work. So if that works, like if you can run this without errors, and then if you can run this cell without errors, and then run this cell without errors, then you should be able to run something like Austin grams equals get in grams Austin list 5. So that would be, I mean, that's going to make an extremely large list, so I'm not going to print that, but that would be a list of Engrams. But run this first, and then try to run that cell and see if that creates your list of Engrams, and then we can see how that goes. Okay, so yeah, back to Shannon's question, and then I'll need to wrap it up because my kids are they need some advice about what to do next. So so if I run glob is, I don't know what it stands for, but it's just a common term of art in computing languages that just means grab a bunch of things using a pattern. And so my pattern is just everything that is in this directory. So it starts with this file path, and then it ends in .text. So the star there is the wildcard character. And what this will do then is make this list of files. So it should be a list. I can check the length of it, and it should have 5 items on it. If I want to see each of those, then yeah, there should be all of those, right? But if I want to do something that applies something or tries to find something out about all of them, I just have 5, but you probably have quite a lot. We can do that with a for loop. So for file in files, let's just do a quick word count function. So let's say, let's open the file first with with open file R as F. So in this case, as I'm using the word file here, that's in place of the actual path. Up here, I use the full path, but down here, I don't need to restate each path. I just use file as a placeholder because I named it as the placeholder as I work through this list. So for file in files, open the file, text equals f.read lower, and we'll go ahead and do the alpha strip non-alpha num. Hi, Serena.
Hey, when will I be ready to get
off of screens?
Yeah.
You should now. You should have a while ago.
No, you.
Me? I'm wrapping it up.
Okay, good.
But you need to be done too. They're taking advantage of my being on a screen to be on screens a little bit longer. So this will do very similar to what we did before, and yeah, I mean, actually, let's go ahead and make this call this word list. That should make a local version of word list 5 times in a row, and then for each of those, all we need to do to get if we want the word count is print the word count. So that's going to be the length of this word list. That's going to be our word count. So what is it? So let's say, actually, let's make this look nice. Word count, and then length of word list. And that should give it, oh, what? Type, must be string, not int. Really? Oh yeah, because I'm concatenating it. So there you go. So that's how I did that. I mean, so that's the word count. And if you, yeah, there's definitely easier ways to do it. You also wanted to know about line counts, I think. So that's a little different, but I mean, that basic idea of a for loop is really how you do something over and over again. Instead of having to do it manually 400 times, you do it once, and then you make the code do the repetition part of it. Okay, so I've already gone over an hour on this stream, so I don't want to make this too much longer, but The tricky part, if you want to count lines, is, well, not tricky, but what you will want to do is, instead of this part where it says strip non-alpha, when it strips non-alpha, it's probably going to be stripping line breaks too, and you need those if you're trying to count lines or look for situations where there's multiple lines in a row. So instead of running it through strip non-alpha, let's see, I bet we can make, let's see, I'll just make a note here, get the word count for a bunch of, for all these files. So that's what that looks like. Let's say we wanted to do the same thing, but we wanted to get the line numbers, or the number of lines for each of these. We don't want to send this through strip non-alpha num. I'm actually not sure what f.read brings the text in as. So let's take off the lower for now. And then let's try to say lines. We'll see if we can make a list of all of the lines by turning that back into text, and then split, and then let's split on, I think you were interested in looking for stanzas, so let's try to look for 2 line breaks in a row. So \n is going to be the line break character. Okay, so Alexander, leave the errors there so I can take a look at them, and then I'll wrap this video up, and then I'll follow up with you later. But Shannon, I think this will count the number of, like, I don't know, this will give me the number of basically paragraphs in each of these, I guess, if it in fact works like I expect it will. So let me just see if this will work, and then I'll wrap it up. Oops, that's not going to work. It's because I didn't change this. It's counting something different. Yeah, okay, so that kind of worked. I mean, that's something that I did there. You'd have to look at your text files individually. Like sometimes, like I don't remember if you're on Mac or Windows, but on Windows, the convention for line break is an R, and so, or sometimes it's -r/r/n. So there is kind of a generic way to write a regular expression that will match any line break type and any number of line breaks, and it's kind of convoluted. But try the /n because that's the most common, and it'll probably work. So anyway, so good. Sounds like you're in good shape, and Alexander, I'll figure out what else is going on with yours. Everyone else, if you have issues, definitely share it. Share your notebook with me. As you saw, I found Alexander's, but if you can send me the link, that makes it easier for me to find what you're looking at and try to troubleshoot it quickly. So great. So thanks for watching. I'm going to wrap it up here, and I'll post this on YouTube later. And again, I'll continue this tutorial. I'll move on to the next one on Wednesday, and then I'll leave Friday open for one-on-one consultation or office hours if you need that. Okay, so have a good afternoon. I'm going to turn it off.